That
Wow.
music in the beginning before the timeout, it's like almost like calming. I was like, oh.
Exactly. It's like do some meditation, like to get ready and present for the day.
I know. What a
Yeah.
way to start this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our
Well,
Empathy Power Up Thanksgiving edition. There's a reason I say Thanksgiving edition because here in US, we're celebrating Thanksgiving this week. When I say celebrating, that's a hard word because now it makes me think of all the problems with the holiday in itself. The anyways, I'm gonna skip past that. This is your weekly empathy power up. It's a short week, and so we need, and we're all going into lots of interesting spaces where we might be either spending time alone with ourselves, with our loved ones, with families, or even people we may not get along with as much, and we are obligated to. And we all need that little bit of boost, and that's what Amy and I, who my amazing partner and co-host in this mission. So we're excited because today we're going to talk about what does it mean to be human. It's a deep, tough one. It's definitely one where it's like um, we want to spend some long time about, but I think we just wanted to do is initiate some curiosity. And when we are talking about this topic, it's not like the biological aspects of being human. It's really the psychological, the mental, and the behavioral aspects that we wanted to understand a little bit. Because there's a question that I don't think a lot of us will agree on, or even agree on, have a common understanding on. So let's dive into it. Amy, what are your thoughts on this
mhm.
topic today?
Okay. So I wanted to start off with saying that I was kind of brought into this kind of like questioning last week in a lovely conversation I had with some of my colleagues in the I guess empathy space, and
Mhm,
we were questioning this idea of how what does it mean to have empathy, and it means
mhm,
different things to different people, but
mhm,
also in the context of like the first question before we even got to like looking at the limits of empathy and what we can do is talking about what does it mean to be human, because like you were saying, we don't all have the same discussion and same conversation about that, and so there's a lot of limitations when we think about what it means to be human, and what those psychological aspects and the behavioral ones as well. So that's kind of like the story that got us here, and so we wanted to kind of have this exploration. When I was in that session, I was thinking first and foremost, like that, like, and so this is something I write about in the book, is that as humans, we have the ability to respond over reacting. And what I mean by that is that there's a choice that you can make in your head. Many, a lot of people talk about our reptilian brain, right? That literally comes from reptiles and from other people, other organization. I mean, other animals in the world. They always react, right? Because their brain is scheduled that way. But we have this time for us to sit back and assess the situation because our brains are so
mhm,
developed
mhm.
that that's a physical thing, but it also ends up in our own reactions to things.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you said like it's respond versus react. And I had jotted down one thing about planning, and I think this connects to that. Is like we are able to plan, and that's part of what response is. Plan our response versus reacting is without in this case without a plan. Is that align with what you're saying? I was just curious.
Yeah, I thought about like the idea of choice. I've been
Oh.
thinking about that. I mean, I think that also it goes with what you were saying, right? It's just like we can do some planning, right? We choose to have planning, but we also in the pandemic are even our best laid plans do not go the way we hope they go, right? So I think an
Oh.
added element of that is that, like, we often talk in the development world of like agile development of like
Mhm, mhm.
react people over process, right? So having that reaction, and I think the pandemic and the world that we live in right now, where it's like very volatile and uncertain, is forcing us to be very responsive or reactive sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And so we can choose how we show up in this realm that's change is ever present.
Yeah, what's interesting is I also added the speed of change, which is again part of this theme. So for when I was thinking about what is human, is the
Mhm,
capacity to plan, capacity, and then when things happen, I think all like a lot of, and that is the point of evolution. People like organisms adapt to change. Are humans faster to adapt to change? And that's one of the characteristics of being a human. But I do
mm,
think that if I ask my husband, who is a marine biologist and a biologist, he would probably say that there's probably like viruses or small like things that probably are faster than humans. But in general, I think coupled with planning and that
mhm,
response and the change, adapting to that change, because that might be that part of that intelligence, because we associate human with intelligence that most a lot of other living organisms do not have. um
mhm,
and so that's interesting, but one thing that keeps sort of coming to me is the ability to imagine. Imagination is what makes human, is something that I've been stuck with for a couple of years now. I've been sort of thinking about is, can other is that what is our uniqueness, is that we can imagine a future. We can imagine something that does not exist yet. And
mm,
and
mm,
and does that make us human?
mm. Yeah, I mean, I think about like the world that the world that all these other animals and things like that, like similarly to your husband, you probably would have much deeper knowledge of like
Mhm.
what is the ability of that. I think, you know, to that is just being able to predict, to think about
Mm.
the future
Predict.
and to predict. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Keep going. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is to sit down and like maybe predict because you look at the past and you learn and grow from that experience. And to some degree, I feel like a lot of animals do kind of learn from experience because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like you might take what is it the it's the evolutionary thing where it's
Yeah. The survival of the
yes,
fittest, where you
yeah,
learn.
survival of
Yeah.
the fittest.
Yeah.
Um, so in a way, survival of the fittest are the ones that are, you will die if you do this thing, right? That takes that. And that happens over millennia, right?
Mhm.
But I think the ones that survive and thrive, I think that makes us human too, is like, surviving. Often people just go there to survive, but I like, what does thriving mean? Um,
Thriving.
and
I like that. That's another interesting. Yeah, thriving.
yeah, thriving. Also, this is what makes me think. I listened to a story the other day. It is in short. I mean, it's a through line podcast, and I talk about through line in my book, but also in other ways. And it's an NPR podcast, and it looks at the past to understand the present.
Mhm.
And one of the best podcasts that I love, and I've listened to it many times over, is about the Bronze Age,
Mhm.
and they look back at the history to say that over a couple decades, the Bronze Age came to a fast halt, a huge halt for various reasons. And one of the things that they have identified is that the people who survived and went into the next age are the people who adapted, right?
Mm. Mhm.
And that happened very quickly. You think about like people who think in bigger ways, to that innovation piece of like we can see, okay, this is what's happening right now, we can change and grow and shift the seas to kind of the sails to kind of go in our direction.
Mm. That so the, and the thing that I feel like all this ties back to this as well is, and it's a question I am sort of still thinking about, is does empathy make differentiate us as humans? Is the ability to be empathetic to
Mm,
other living organisms or even anything, to be empathetic in general, is that uniquely human or not?
mm.
And
Yeah.
when it comes to like our dog, like my dog, or like I treat like I love my dog as like it was my child in every way, and we even my dog has like equal ownership in everything we do. Like it's interesting. Our house is named after him, and for those moments I'm like, wait, did we sort of breed empathy into that animal to give back love? But then I sometimes question, like, no, is it empathy that my dog is feeling towards me, or is it just the safety and love and care? I don't know if that's so.
Hmm.
So for me, I still am trying to understand this question. I don't know if there is, and we have to do more research and learn more about it. But for me, is empathy something that is uniquely human?
Hmm. Yeah, I think what my first reaction when you said is that uniquely human is I did think about dogs, and also I'm here at my mother's house right now, and I'm taking care of my 20-month-old nephew a little bit.
Oh.
His name He's adorable. And like I see this, and I also see it with my other nieces and nephews, that they pick up, right? They pick up the emotions that you have, right? And I mean, certainly in some of the rooms that I'm in, where we talk about how our family has had such an impact on us, and I don't see that, like, that kind of that the behaviors and genes that we collect from past experiences affects us as humans, right, in a
Mm.
deeper way. And I think that makes us human. And like to some extent, yes, if a dog is put into a very bad experience, or any kind of animal really, it's going to give them some kind of PTSD, right?
Mm.
Post traumatic stress disorder. But I think as humans, we can kind of learn from that past, and those genes and behaviors are passed on to us. So
Yeah, that's what's it's an interesting thought here. Is there are dogs that are trained to predict or to understand, if for people, for children, or people dealing with anxieties, or
yeah.
people on the autism spectrum, or any of
Mhm.
those
Cancer.
uh, it- and as support dogs, or therapy dogs, or service dogs, they are there, and they, oh, an attack is about to come, or someone is feeling bad, and they go and provide that support, and say, like cancer, you said. So
Mhm.
is it, if I would expand that question, what does it mean to be human, is the ability to be empathetic, and also maybe teach empathy to others,
Mhm.
because that is something that we train the dogs to do, and breed the dogs to feel and do, is empathy. And so is that also part of that, is the
Mhm.
concept of empathy is a human concept?
Hmm. Well, I think it, like, I even wrote down in some of my thoughts, is like, what makes us human is that we feel emotions, and that helps us get through the complexities of life. And I those three parts of empathy that I define in the book is coming from Daniel Goleman, but it's about the head, the heart, and the hand, right? The
Mhm.
head is taking somebody's perspective, right? And I think that part is inherently human,
Mm.
because we can take somebody else's perspective. A dog might not be able to take perspective, right? Or other animals, because we have a very
Mm.
complex brain. You
Yeah.
know? And then also a choice, right? Like, and
Mhm.
getting to that place of that choice, the ability to respond over reacting. We have a choice on how we respond to something. So that's all in that first step. The second step is emotional empathy.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like, how can we respond with our emotions? And so, because of our developed sense of, developed nature and brain, we can respond with emotions. We can understand our emotions and be in community with others.
Mhm.
And then also, going back to that response piece, having that the hand, which is the compassionate empathy. How do you actually have compassion for somebody else or something else? And I
Mm.
think if you wind that through those three kind of like deeper definitions of it, it all points to a human kind of nature.
Yeah, and that's what's so I think is interesting, is if we believe that being having empathy is a human thing, it is even more critical for us to hold on to that
Yes.
as we go than the deficit that we are experiencing, right? Because
Hmm.
then it's like we are giving up parts of our humanity, it seems
Hmm.
like.
Absolutely. And that's what makes us who we are. So, but
Yeah.
we might define it in different ways, but that's true. Yeah. Well,
I would
Marty,
invite audience to put in comments or just reach out. Like, what do you think makes you human? This is something that we're still debating and having a conversation around. But it is.
yeah.
Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? We'd love to hear.
Like, please share.
Yeah.
This was an interesting thing because we both came in. We didn't have our big talking points. We just kind of were like, let's just have a debate about this. So, let us know if you like this format. We're happy to have more conversations. If you want to come on and just have a debate with us about something, let us know.
Yes.
So that should be fun. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Well, this is really exciting. I know this 15 minutes went by again very quickly, but we send you all love for this time where you're spending. Hopefully, you are curious, you're reflective, you are surrounded by love, and if you're not, um, please reach out with people who can send you love, and we are there because we all need love, and I
Mhm.
hope you can find love for yourself, and that is the biggest step I took over the last 3 years, and so
Mm.
I
Well, it's a whole
I hope
conversation,
that
I'm
you all
sure.
can do that as well.
To accept love. That's a whole
Yeah,
conversation.
well, yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Well, for those who do celebrate Thanksgiving, enjoy the time that you have with friends and family. For everybody else who doesn't, like, still enjoy time with friends and family because that's where we receive and give love.
Awesome. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody. Bye.